So welcome to the Node API team meeting for December 2nd, 2022. Time flies. We'll follow our standard approach of taking a look at the things we've tagged for milestone 11. Anybody have any announcements they'd like to share before we dive into that? If not, okay, I'm going to share the screen. Here we go. And let me just, I'm just gonna open up that box. Okay. So first of all, document on how to check for memory leaks in an add-on default leak. I don't know if there's any updates. I don't see any comments on there, so maybe nothing to talk about that this week. Same for adding a list of C language bindings. I know there was a PR, which we were discussing, right? Is this the PR? Did we land that PR maybe? Right, here we go. Okay, so that's good. We made progress. That landed, and I guess the next step is to add the link on the node side to that, and then we can close that out. But we should probably leave it in for now. Okay. Better coverage of Node API on YouTube. I don't know if there's anything anybody has to add to that one this week.
Just some quick clarifications on that task. Is it similar to the last one where we wanted to create a README in this repo, and then link it in the core docs?
I think I can see from one of your discussions that like creating that link, I think this started as we should have more content. But I think that's a good place. We should do that, like, because it's like, here's the existing content, and then as we generate more, we can add it to that page. So
yeah, because we have this list of 6 videos here. Maybe I can take a stab at creating that initial README for step 1.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Like even, yeah, and that one, once we land that might be even something to use in terms of the like, hey, if you want to contribute some content, or however we want to sort of get to generate more of that. I know we were going to work on some of it. Maybe we want to ask to see if other people want to, and as well.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's great. So Kevin, I'm just going to say Kevin volunteered to create I'll take the wording from above. Right?
Yep.
That way, if somebody comes there, they won't go and have 2 people doing the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. Drive towards full coverage. I know Jack let us know he couldn't make it today, but I think there was at least one his PRs in flight.
Yes, and this was for his fix for the
Right.
Visual Studio 2017.
Yeah, is that worth chatting about now?
It's not this one, it's the first one.
Yeah. This one?
Yep.
Right.
Yes, so I took a look at this as well. And I guess here my comment is basically that maybe we better to go to the files changed so that we can just quickly chat at the code, because it's a really small change. But so basically, when this initial PR for the type thread safe function was implemented, it uses template metaprogramming in order to decide at compilation time which call.js wrapper to use. And then it's basically the block of code that's read there. It uses the std enable if structure, class, whatever. And depending on whether call is null pointer, it uses the first one, or not null pointer, and if it is a null pointer, it uses the second one. And this would be a compile time check. So there's no additional runtime computations that are performed or any additional things like that. And now this change here, in order to fix it, introduces this if statement here, which would then be executed on every thread safe function call. So that's what I was trying to avoid, is this additional computation by using the compile time call JS wrappers. And that's basically all that I wanted to point out regarding this. The additional conditional check might be negligible, and it is acceptable to throw in, but I just wanted to point it out, in that it would be done on every execution or call to the thread safe function.
I guess the question is, what are the options, right? Because I think if I remember the history, and I may get this wrong, but like you had two versions, and we thought we'd hit the threshold of where we could switch versions, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But we didn't quite. It seems like we maybe haven't quite hit that threshold. Like 116, this only failed on 14, was it?
When we were looking at it, it was failing on 10, because that because it was using GCC4, I think. And then 10 went out of life. So then we were able to land it. But I guess since there was no test that ran the specific scenario, we didn't catch the Visual Studio 2017 failure.
Right. So basically, yeah. So and it looks like 2017 is just like it's supported by 14, but we don't actually run the tests on it for later ones. So 16. So I think what this means is, like, until April, we don't have that. So we could wait till we could land this and then revert it in April is one option.
Right.
I don't know what the other options are in terms of handling it.
Yeah, the alternative actually used a different technique because like previous versions of MSVC was actually quite flaky about about all these different conditions. And I would say classical approach, if you want to split up different things like this, instead of kind of playing with return type like this code did before, the right approach will be to use this enable if inside of kind of template itself. There is technique like you enable if t returns supposed to return integer type, and you just effectively kind of using this value type.
But are you like, because this was the part that this was the attempt to use the enable if in the template, or I guess in the type name, not in the template.
No, yeah, like pretty much, yeah. By default, it actually here returns supposed to return void, but technically this technique was here used to determine if this function applicable or not. I think we can try to change it. So technically, instead of putting this enable if using as a return type, we can put it inside of this template tag on top. Like so, after this call.js call, one line above, we can just simply say comma cd enable if put this condition down there.
Okay, if you have an idea of what will work instead,
at least something worth to try. I have experienced similar issues with enable if in previous version of Visual Studio, and we typically use different techniques to address it.
Okay, or like
would you be able to look at that then?
Yeah, I could try. Like so, yeah, let me install Visual Studio 2017 and play with it. I think we can use just alternative approach to achieve it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can either try it out or comment it there, suggest to Jack what to try out. That sounds
Yeah,
good.
I would hate him to kind of waste time on it. Like, let me
Sure.
try it first.
Yeah, no, if you're happy to try it, sounds great.
Yeah, could you just put comment here that
Yeah.
that I gonna try it so before we merge. I hope to do it over weekend, so technically on Monday it will be clear if it works or not. But I believe we can have an alternative technique.
So the ST. There's a STD enable if. Okay, sounds good. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
So I think that was the only one to talk about in terms of the or was it drive towards full coverage? I don't know if there's anything else top of people's mind. Okay, if not, I will dive into the stale issues. This one. Okay, so we're still waiting on the feature books. It's for that one, this one.
This one, there's the PR open. It was waiting on a documentation update, which I did now. It's the second one.
Okay. This one right here,
Um,
so.
Yeah, and I think it should, yeah. Right, we saw this last week, and then there was that CI run failure on something that was completely, like I'm not changing any code, so
Right.
we didn't realize why one of the checks failed.
Is that this one or?
If you scroll up to the commit, there's the red X on the last commit.
See here.
And it's just next to committed 7 days ago, the last.
Oh, right.
commit.
Okay, right.
Yeah, you can click the red X and then one of these. Yeah, I guess it was a canceled check. So yeah, you were right with whichever one was canceled there.
Let's just take a look at what it
canceled during compilation.
I don't, that doesn't look to me like it's any, I'm just gonna restart it.
Yeah. I have seen that like the Mac OS one takes a long time to spin up and compile, and maybe it's getting canceled because of a short timeout.
Okay.
But yeah, that PR is ready.
Okay, so it's ready to be landed for, I think, yeah, that definitely doesn't look related. Okay.
Yeah, especially considering the previous commit, all those checks succeeded.
Yeah.
So changing a markdown shouldn't affect it.
No, absolutely not. Okay, so that one, I'll try and land that this afternoon. It's good. Okay, let's go back. So we looked at this one. That's this one, right?
Yep.
I think maybe I should just delete that one. We have a PR. Any reason?
Sure.
Okay. Let's do that. Okay. This one.
I think this one also is sort of dependent on the change to the runtime semantics.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you have posted a issue about the runtime semantics, and we have some discussion around it.
Do we want to talk about that one now?
We can go with the stale issue first.
Okay, so we'll finish that. We'll come back to that one. Sure. So that's this one, right? And then this one is the last one.
That one was just waiting for the example to be in
Right.
C++. Vladimir, was there any progress on this one?
Sorry, no, like
Okay, no
Okay.
worries.
That's all our stale ones, so that's good. So then, see, I don't think I've heard anything major in terms of new updates or anything like that, but it's good. Haven't done anything on that. So, okay, so let's flip over to the issues, and actually I could change that, couldn't I? There we go. So the top one that you've opened, yeah. So I don't know if there's anything you want to mention about that one. Some good discussion there.
Currently, I can see one unresolved question is that how do we handle the add-ons that don't have the NPI module record, since they are using the magic symbol NPI module register v1, which the v1 is comes from the NPI module version, which is saved in the NM version field. So they are using the same version and parallel with the NPI version we have right now. So one possible alternative can be Vladimir's. What Vladimir's mentioned, we can introduce a new magic symbol for add-ons to return their targeting module version. But yeah, but that could be a good alternative. But I'm thinking how that would work with add-ons that have declared their own NPI module record. So there could be two places module can declare their targeting NPI version. So I'm still thinking about this question, and I don't have a good answer right now. And I believe that's the outstanding question for now, and I don't see other issue.
Okay.
I was start to look on this issue yesterday, so I figure out like apparently we have different ways how we can register modules today. One of them, like we have this module record, and effectively we have another one. Then people just have this magic function, and it seems like for WASM we also have alternative. So I just like a second ago submitted a draft PR. How this solution might look like? Can we open this PR?
Sure. What's the number of it?
Or if you probably refresh this thing,
Okay.
I have a reference. Probably not. Yeah, this one.
This one.
Sorry.
Pull
Yeah,
request.
I just submit PR.
Yeah. Okay.
It's on top. No, it's
very
It's the first
oh,
one.
okay, right. It's right on the top. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I can, because I started to look last night, but I finish up today. So idea that what if we introduce this magic function, and this magic function, we will start to use this magic function ourselves, so for visibility, and then pretty much have people, if they're using magic function, to use similar approach. So I think like a core of changes inside of a node API.h.
Okay, let me find that one. This one. Okay, yeah.
So it's a bit different from what I described in document, but essentially idea that we'll use one of the reserved fields. Instead of passing the version, we'll pass function which supposed to return version.
Okay.
Just this idea that we can actually kind of make it kind of unified approach in this case. Again, this is draft. It's just something I would like us to discuss it. So I kind of was trying to finish up right now. So I did that. Imagine we pass in this function. So you see, I have introduced new macro, kind of replace this NAPI module X with module XV. So we now have this passing function of version. So this version can be passed to struct. And if you scroll down a bit, so also introduce this block, which effectively creates this magic function to return this version. So previously, we were kind of creating a function called like, you see with line 98, it's actually creating this magic function name. Was, for example, some register function v1, right? So this new code will do pretty much the same stuff to return version of the API used by module.
Right. Okay. I have to look at it a little bit more in depth, but I get like, because if I'm understanding correctly, like you can use our macros which define the record, or you could just make this magic function. But the problem is that magic function wouldn't return the info we need, right?
Right, because magic function, everything it does today, it's effectively it receives an API environment, it receives export and supposed to return export. And effectively, this is how probably Rust implementation of Node API uses our initialization. And at least it's something what I saw in an API for C# and .NET.
Okay.
They don't create a kind of special struct, but rather just defining one exported function, which allows you just initialize module. Right. And
So they would have to. Does this mean they have to create a second exported function, or?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Which says, okay, tell me which version you want.
Right.
And if you don't do that, we could just default to 8 or whatever we pinned at.
Right. So if you look inside of this last file on the left, node version.h.
Yep.
I propose in there to introduce a new macro called the NAPI default module API version. So this guy, for example, will say stay always for 8.
Yep.
And then inside of, I think it's inside of with JS native API v8.h. Oh, sorry, .h. Yeah, H or CPP. I don't remember. Right. If you,
Which file? Wait a sec. Yeah. Okay. There's only one file. Right.
So technically, we would use as a default here.
Right. Yep.
It's one place, and second place, it would be inside of this Node API CC. Node API CC. So technically, we pass in this function to get version, and at some point, if you scroll down a bit, okay, it's right here, like line 619. So we see we're trying to, we're saying this is default version we use, and if we don't find function, if we don't see function which can return us version, if we find it when we use it, otherwise we use this default version here.
Yep. Otherwise, yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And if you look inside of this node binding CC, sorry, just last point, node binding CC, this node binding CC.
If you open that,
sorry, yeah, slow today.
Like previously, we used to have it was some magic to find this magic function. If could you open a bit up, with line 4 of, it's if you
right, okay, this one,
no, above, look, you see I have introduced 4 or 5, this one.
Okay,
you see like on lines 398, it was a code which actually was trying to find this magic function.
Yeah.
398. So I'm introducing similar code in 405 to find this magic function for version.
Right.
And if you scroll down a bit, so this is just how it's been used. So I did like, if you see like on line 473, we're checking if we do have a struct available. If we have it available, then we use it. If we don't have it available, then on line 487, we're looking for this magic function.
Yep.
Right. And here I'm changing. I'm also passing in this magic function to grab version.
What is the benefit of using a function to return the version versus just putting the version in the struct? Are we saying that it's because the struct may not be there?
Yeah, so technically, what I understand, we have multiple ways to initialize modules today. Supplying struct is just one of them, which mostly used from C++. And it sounds like other languages like Rust and, for example, .NET, that don't use this technique, that don't create this struct. Instead, they exporting this magic function, like not magic function.
I see.
They exporting a function with some predefined name,
Gotcha.
just to be able to initialize module. So technically, everything was signature of this function. If you look, it has two parameters: environment plus export value, and it returns export value. So what this function does.
It's a good question. Like, why do we need two? Like, why can't people use the struct method?
It's one of the kind of unexpected consequences. Like people looking at your header file and they're finding some, I can hack this way.
Right. So, but it's like, so I'm just, what if we said going forward, you have to use the struct instead, or you're pinned in an old version, right? Like we don't break anything, but like if you want to move up.
I'm not sure if they find they can't declare, like say, they'll need a constructor attribute for the register function, if I recall correctly. I'm not sure if in this condition the constructor attribute will not be available to them. Like say, I'm not sure if it's true, but we need to investigate if since it's a compiler attributes.
Right, like maybe it's too C++ specific.
Yeah.
So technically today, we fill in this struct as a part of our DLL load procedure. So technically, every time we load DLL, we initialize the struct and we send the struct to module. We register the struct. So this, when people call this initialization function, they don't have to provide any kind of code during DLL loading. They just supplied function, and whenever node.js needs to load modules, they can just simply call this function and it's done. And if you look on the initialization code for WASM, like probably, Michael, did you do this WASM code yourself?
No, I didn't. Yeah, that was Colin who did that. Probably.
Okay. But if you look at their technique, they're using very similar stuff. If you look back on side of this node API.h, this is very similar technique. They just defining a function and which they probably calling from WASM. So again, from WASM, they don't fill in the same struct. They just defining.
So I'll flip the question around. Do we need the struct? Right, like I'm just like, there's two different ways of doing it. Do we really need two different ways, or is this the time where we basically, like, I think partially what you were suggesting is let's add a function that gives us, you have to define this function which we can call to get the version, and let's use that even if we're using the struct, right? What if we just say, you know, yeah, the structs can be used up to this version of Node API. For future ones, you use this other way. And we make maybe we can make the macros do that, or, you know, make it transparent in terms of like, to change, you just change to this new macro name or something, right?
I don't think we can remove this struct, since right now people can declare their own names of the register function. That is to say, they can, if they declare their register function name to be different from the magic name, then it is currently working. But if we remove the struct, then it will not work.
Right. Okay.
We can always what we can do, like if the new people define their own function, we can call it from our magic exported function. So technically we can work around it. Should be possible. So technically, if you look at, we have like two major macros to register modules today. One of them called an API module, another one an API kind of module init or something. So then the same like this init one, they effectively defining this magic function, so which we already do in addition to defining this module struct. But technically, if they would just design this magic function there, it would just simply work in any case. But second one, then we have this an API module where you can supply this your custom init function. Let's just change one set. We can potentially define this macro in a way that we just calling this init function from our magic function, because magic means like it has fixed name. We literally, inside of this node API.h, we say name of this function like this. I think it's an API register v1, right? Something like this. You're right. We can greatly simplify it. I don't really know like what's the scenario when we pass all different information. We have this with an API module X, and it has 4 parameters. So I wonder what was actually scenario. Was it Electron by any chance? I don't know if you guys remember any history of it.
I have a feeling it's like those macros were there for native modules, and we adopted the approach that was being used. Right. So, and, you know, but we needed to say we needed to know it was a Node API one versus a NAN one, because they're handled differently. So we introduced our own macros and stuff, but I can't remember. Like, we'll have to try and see if we can remember if there's any other context, and also reach out to, you know, some other, like you said, Electron would be a good team to ask. That does make me think as well, like we should go out to the other, like the Dino and the Bun teams to see, because they're having to implement some of this, like the magic loading stuff, and get some feedback from them. If we're even for the original ones, like the feedback, hopefully get their feedback as well. But it does seem like if it's a point in time where we're going to say you need to do some change to move up, maybe it's the time where we pick one of the two, versus unless we can figure out why you really need to, right?
Yeah, so technically, advantage of using struct is actually you can provide more information. But from the other hand, if we don't use struct, we're just using magic function, we don't provide this information, and everything somehow works. It's actually wonders. And if you think this approach is much more superior, because we don't do any work on DLL load, and we effectively kind of completely lazy in terms that only when node.js needs this module, they will start to call this function. So it will be zero work done before node.js needs this function.
Another problem is that we have said we are going to increment the MPI module version, and that module version is encoded in the magic symbol. So when we increment the magic symbol, we have to support 2 magic symbol. And while we incremented the version again, then the magic symbol doubles, which, let's say we have 3 and 4, and we have to query all of these magic symbols as we are going to provide API guarantees. Those add-ons are needed to be supported with every node.js version in the future release. This is different from what node add-ons that are not using MPIs functions, as node binary is going to support single node module versions, so they have to query single magic symbol, and so I believe this can be problematic on performance perspective when the MPI module versions are going to, let's say, going to increment multiple times, but I don't think it's going to be realistic, since I don't think we are going to. But yeah, that's possible.
So I would propose that we don't increment this node module version. So in this case, we can keep it simple.
Which version?
Yeah.
Which one?
Yeah, like we previously discussed, and I think I was the one who was actually proposing to change node module version to change it to 2 versus 1. And since this version uses a part of this magic function, we can let's not increment it.
Yeah, for Michael's question, the definition is called an API module version.
Yeah, if you
which
click on
files it in?
node.api.h.
In node.api.h.
Okay, right here. So there we go. Is it in right here? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, 47, line 47.
Yeah, it's saved as the version field.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. Yes. If we basically. And that would potentially, like, that would be, that lines up with this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if it depends, I guess, if we use one of these reserved fields or not.
Yeah, previously we discussed about that since we are changing the semantics of this record, so probably we need to increment this version. But right now we find out that this version is bounded to the magic symbol. And when we increment this version, then magic symbol also going to be updated. So, and for Node API, we have to query both magic symbols.
Right. Yep.
Right. Yeah. That's
why is it tied to the magic symbol?
It's convention from the Node add-ons that are not using Node API, Node C++ add-ons. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Yeah, there are 2 places where this version is being used. If you look, if you scroll down a bit, you will see that we're creating this magic function name using this version.
Right.
A bit down. Yes, this is line 96. So this is where we form 96. Oh, sorry.
Or 96. Okay. Right.
96. Yeah, here we effectively creating this version. So we're taking base name and we're concatenating the version. And the base name, I think it's defined. sorry, let's see, probably a bit below. If you could expand below a bit.
This one here.
Yeah, now we probably see the whole. Yeah, now we see the whole thing. So it's, you see, with an API module init, in the end we're saying, you see one line, 138, line 138.
Okay.
It's what 138? Yeah. No, it's above. Sorry.
The right side 138.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I don't know quite. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
This one right here.
Yes.
Okay.
So this an API module init, it's something what people can use. So effectively, it's become like function name, and people just need to provide body. And internally, we given this main API module initializer, and module initializer defined to line 135, just a bit above. We're saying this. We're using this base name. A base name is a bit above, called NAPI register module V.
Right. Yeah.
So we could concatenate the version, so it becomes this magic function name is NAPI register module V1.
Right. Okay.
And then you look inside of this node bindings.cc. We're pretty much doing again. We're concatenating these two names to look for this function.
Okay. I guess it comes back to your earlier question. Like, I think we need to understand is like, well, how is this information used, right?
So potentially I see like file name. So file name, I guess it's something which may help people to do some error messages.
Right.
Like, potentially. What else? Flags, I don't see it's being actually used. Because the only flags available is its module, external module we need to delete. And for Node API modules, we're always saying it's deleted. We don't say it's internal. So technically, I would say flags are not being used at all. Version is not being used, is what Cheng John said before. So file name can be potentially used for error message. Module name, I don't know, maybe it's also for some reason, but technically we already know module names and we're loading it. I'm not sure how it's being used at all. Private field, I have no idea. Like it's what we need to ask maybe Electron team, but in our code, I don't see it's being used.
It may have been. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something we used and then actually, like, that one we may have used and then said, oh, well, wait a second, we don't need it anymore. So we just renamed it to like, this is private field you don't need. And the reserve we're just like, hey, we added some stuff, right? Right.
And we do use this private one on original node modules where we put in there kind of link to this struct.
Right. Okay.
This one, I don't see how it's being used. So technically, it seems like the only kind of extra here, we're talking about file name and module name.
Right. And I guess even the flags, like we could encode, for example, the node version you've asked for into those flags, right? It's a place to encode some information probably. But maybe it just came from modules, right? Like that may have just been from the original structures.
Right, like original structure had them, and these flags determine if it's module, internal module for node.js or versus probably external or something like this. It's my understanding what these flags are currently being used.
Right.
It's not used for Node API modules, at least. They all consider it to be external.
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't want to. I don't think we need to decide today, but it was just a thought that if we're having to do, reconcile two things, it's a good time to think about, do we still need the two?
And this is just a draft PR, so don't take it. I mean, like, definitely not follow exactly the document at this point. It's just subject to discuss. Like, definitely, it's not something that, not in any case ready to merge or something. It's more like how we can address this. It's mostly I try to answer a question like how we can address this issue about magic functions and version for magic functions. And if we we require a version of a magic function to be a separate callback. Maybe we should also use callback if we use instruct approach. It's pretty much just kind of this line of thought.
Right. Right. And isn't it interesting to understand, like, if all the non-node implementations use the callbacks versus the structures, I could see, I guess it's like harder to create the structures maybe in those other languages versus implementing a C function is something that they do provide, right? With a simple type return.
Right. Like imagine this function has very simple kind of signature. People implement this function and it's guaranteed them to be loaded.
Yeah.
And happy ever after.
Yep.
No dealing with structs, filling with struct. Like it's
Yep.
all become too hairy, if you like.
Yeah, got it. Okay,
Yeah,
anything
I
more we
did,
should talk about on this one before we move on?
Yeah, just real quick. I just did a quick search on for that symbol NAPI register module v1 on GitHub, and it's other languages that are using them.
Right, okay. Makes sense.
Thanks.
Okay, so we were looking at label node API. Excellent. It's open. Nope. That wrong.
You misspelled label.
Ah, okay. I spelled it the Canadian way. Not misspelled. Just okay, I still don't have it right though.
I think you can't have the space.
Space. You remove space.
Oh, okay. There we go. And I want open. Okay. Anything else? So that we talked about this one. This one, I think.
Yeah, we have discussed about this one last time. It's a simplification of the code base without any behavioral change. We just need more reviews on this one.
Right. Yeah, okay. Let me note that one down too. So that's 4.5. Okay. Okay, I don't see anything else new there. Anything else, other ones in core that people want to bring up? Okay, and I'm going to. This one looks brand new. I don't know if somebody already commented. No. Anyway, I guess we unlikely anybody's had a chance to look at that one. We talked about this one already, right? And Vladimir's going to take a look. This one, Nick did some work on the documentation. That's good. Right, and I think I remember looking at that.
Yeah, that one looks good.
Yeah.
I think we can just go ahead and approve that one.
I'm going to do that if other people want to add their approvals as well. And then we'll get that one landed too. Because it sounds like there's at least that one and the other one that you'd done, Kevin, that I think we can land.
Right.
Let's see. This one. See, there's back and forth. Legend so this one's ready to land from your perspective?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I have approved. I think this one is good. And if you have any time to take a look on it, it will be great.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms like that cleanup hook, should it always have been public? did we just miss that? Like, I'm just, the one question I guess is it something we didn't intend to be public at some point for some reason, or?
The original author is Kevin. Maybe
Yeah.
Kevin, if you have any ideas.
I am. I don't think I worked on this. This might have been Gabriel. It might have been reformatted due to Git when we did the reformatting, but I don't particularly remember working on any cleanup hooks.
But
I
I
mean,
just find that.
Yeah,
I just find that it's declared in after the at the end of the class structure, so it probably might be a unintentional placement of the structure at the end of the class. So
Okay.
sorry, okay.
I remember last week you had mentioned that you might have had a little concerns of having a default constructor for cleanup hook with no arguments. And if you scroll to the very first file, that's what is happening here. Is that not it? Was that not a problem then?
Yeah, I take a look at other MPI classes, and I found out that we declare all the default constructor without any parameters for all other MPI classes. So that's what I found out. So that I think this is fine.
Right. I recall that. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I'll try and take another look, but if you've looked at it, it's probably good. These two are related. This one we already talked about. This one, I know there was some discussion. I'm not sure if this one. There was.
Maybe it's that one. They're all kind of similar.
Yeah. Because I'm not quite sure where to start on these ones. I can see there's the picture of the code.
And that's like our internal, that's our library.
Our code, right? Yeah.
That's our code.
So, I mean, so maybe I'll add just another comment, like, maybe does that make sense to ask?
Yeah.
Okay, because I think otherwise I don't see anything too new. Anything else?
That one
Sorry.
for 1226. It has a little
226,
blue
this
line.
one?
Yeah,
Okay,
that
yeah.
one. I saw that because we discussed this last week with Nick, talking about making the release default, and I think he fixed it.
Okay.
And Zhengzong has approved it.
Okay.
So may also be able to land.
So 1226 should be good. Yeah. Okay. 1226. Good. To land. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I remember, yeah, we talked about that, and sounds like if it's been updated along those lines, which, yeah, looks good. Okay. Perfect. Actually, I think, yeah, I remember looking at that one. So I'm just Okay, any others that we should chat about?
I think that's it.
Okay, well, if not, we're exactly on time. So thanks for everybody's discussion and contribution. As mentioned, I'll miss next week, but I'll catch up with what you talk about in a couple weeks. Thanks.
All right.
See
Have a
everybody
good
later.
weekend.
See
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you. See you. Bye.